Can you imagine going on vacation to another country and suddenly disappearing? Mark Kilroy was murdered, but the question remains, was it because of hatred, revenge, or money? He was not chosen randomly. He was chosen because of what he represented. A body that could be used to, in their words, protect others. While his family searched desperately for him, a group of people believed his death would make them invincible. This is not just the story of a crime. It is the story of how fear, superstition, and power can transform ordinary people into followers capable of crossing any line, convinced that what they are doing is right. In March 1989, Mark Kilroy, a 21-year-old university student, crossed the border into Matamoros, Mexico, along with thousands of American students during spring break. It was supposed to be a short trip, with no apparent danger. He went out with friends to have fun, and he never came back. At first, his absence did not raise immediate alarms. Near the border, disappearances were not unusual, and many cases resolved themselves after a few days. But hours turned into days, and Mark did not appear. His family began a desperate search, putting pressure on both Mexican and American authorities. The case quickly attracted media attention because Mark had no criminal connections and no personal conflicts. He was simply the wrong person in the wrong place. Confused witnesses spoke about a possible kidnapping. Armed men from a strange group that seemed to operate outside the normal logic of drug cartels. As the investigation continued, a disturbing possibility appeared. Mark had not been kidnapped for money. There were no calls, no demands. His disappearance did not follow the usual pattern. Little by little, investigators began to understand that the case was not about revenge or a mistake. Mark had been selected as part of something much bigger, something ritualistic, something beyond normal understanding. His name would eventually become the key that uncovered one of the darkest criminal stories in modern Mexican history. In 1989, Mark Kilroy was on vacation in Tamaulipas, Mexico. Before his death, he was tortured, he was violated and murdered by a machete cut to the back of the neck. They removed a brain and boiled it. Then they inserted a cable into his spinal column and amputated his legs. The case gained relevance and attention from the United States government. In a road inspection, they found a man named Serafin Hernandez Garcia and others captured, guided them to the Santa Elena Ranch, and were forced to dig up the bodies. It is there where they exhumed more than 15 bodies, including Mark's. They also found shipments of narcotics, weapons, and luxury vehicles. No signs of cannibalism were found, but what they did find was something terrifying: pots with human brains and a lot of salt. The detainees confessed that they were following the orders of Constanzo. And who was Constanzo? Adolfo de Jesús Constanzo, or the sect, known as the Godfather, or the rest, as a baptized drug trafficker, leader of a Narcosatanic group. He was not a common drug trafficker. From a young age, he showed a charismatic, dominant, and deeply manipulative personality. He presented himself as someone with special spiritual knowledge, capable of seeing what others could not see. With time, he mixed distorted beliefs of Afro-Caribbean rituals with his own vision of absolute power. For Constanzo, violence was not only a means, it was a spiritual tool. He convinced his followers that certain rituals made them invulnerable, that the police would not find them, that bullets would not reach them, and that betrayal would be punished even after death. He did not speak like a madman. He spoke with certainty, calmly, like someone who deeply believes what he says. That made him even more dangerous. Constanzo had power. He did not force, he persuaded. Once inside, leaving was almost impossible. Doubting meant putting yourself at risk. Constanzo did not seek only money. He sought control. He wanted followers who obeyed without questioning, who believed that violence was necessary, and that sacrifice was an investment in his mind. Each crime reinforced his authority, feeding the myth that he was untouchable. That myth would ironically end up leading him to his end. His cult was involved in a series of murders and ritual sacrifices in the city of Matamoros. He accompanied his mother on trips to Haiti. There he learned Haitian voodoo. There is where he also learned Palo Mayombe, a religion that involves satanic rites and animal sacrifices. With this, he gained the reputation of a magician and santero until he came to be valued as a guru or leader by the upper class of Mexico and powerful people of that time, where he charged for rituals of good luck and others where the torment and suffering of animals were required. According to the book Evil, Inside the Minds of Killers, written by Charles Lord Tree, he was the godfather. Nicknamed that way over the years, he did not want offerings of animals, but rather the martyrdom of human beings. For that reason, he began several crimes against life, with more than 20 victims, all of them with separated limbs, where all were found in Mexico City and its surroundings. Constanzo was not satisfied, and he said that he needed a brain. In 1989, the Narcosatanists settled in the Santa Elena ranch of Matamoros. It was there where they carried out their most sadistic and bloody rituals. The sect, led by Constanzo, did not function like a traditional criminal gang. It operated like a closed system of beliefs. Fear was the base, but distorted faith was the glue. The rituals were not symbolic acts, they were tests of loyalty. Those who participated remained committed forever. The group believed that each violent action strengthened their spiritual protection. The rituals were carried out in isolated places, far from outside eyes, where the idea was reinforced that they were different from the rest of the world. They spoke of invisible enemies, future betrayals, and inevitable punishments for whoever doubted. The sect used secrecy as a weapon. Each member knew enough to be afraid, but not enough to escape. Some entered looking for protection, others power. With time, all became trapped in a dynamic where violence normalized and morality disappeared. The most disturbing thing is that not all were marginal people. There were educated individuals with stable jobs who accepted Constanzo's narrative because it offered them something that the real world did not: certainty. In an environment dominated by crime and impunity, the sect promised order, protection, and meaning, and that meaning was built on the destruction of others. It is there where they hunted the Calzadas family, where bodies without fingers, ears, and brain were found. In order to expand, and for the product of the rituals, he recruited Sara Aldrete, who would become his priestess of the cult. She, as his right hand, recruited people in a very unusual way. She always watched the movie Believers, which was a thriller from 1987. The movie showed human offerings where the reward was money and power. In this way, psychologically, they captured the minds of their followers to implant a dark momentary happiness, all as a form of indoctrination. They had all the time in the world to store all kinds of narcotics in their properties, but they also took the lives of strangers and rival members. Now, let us return to the beginning. Imagine you go on vacation to a country you do not know, and just after one day, you are kidnapped, exposed to torture, and finally, your remains become part of a satanic ritual. That is what happened to Mark Kilroy, a 21-year-old young man who went on vacation to Mexico. He was attacked with a machete to the back of the neck when he was escaping. After tormenting him all night, they removed his brain, boiled it, and later placed a cable in his spinal column as if it were an animal slaughterhouse. The amputation of the legs from the knee downward was also observed. Everyone thought that Mark would return after a few days of partying, but it was not like that. Because of this, the case gained so much social importance, and over time the ranch was found. It was there where they found more than a dozen bodies, and 3 of them were never identified. When the bodies were discovered in the ranch, Constanzo and his followers fled to Mexico City. The last murders were similar in Mexico City. They followed the clues and found an apartment on Rio Sena Street in the Cuauhtemoc district. On May 6th, when the authorities were about to enter, Constanzo began to shoot from his window. After almost an hour of confrontation, the Godfather ordered Leon to kill him and Quintana Rodriguez, and it is there where the godfather Constanzo died at the hands of his followers. The police arrested the godmother, Sara Aldrete, who denied the charges, as well as Omar Francisco Orea Ochoa, who died on February 11, 1990 from AIDS in prison. Only Oviedo Hernandez Garcia and Mario or Fabio Ponce Torres remained, the only suspects who are still fugitives. Losing control was worse than dying. His death was not an act of repentance, but of coherence with his own narrative, continuing to command until the end according to his fall. Many of his followers were arrested and judged. The case became an extreme symbol of how far the mixture of crime, superstition, and power can go. But it also left open questions. The real horror is not in the rituals, but in the human mind that accepts them because it offered an illusion of control in a chaotic world. Constanzo did not create monsters. He removed moral bricks. He convinced his followers that violence was necessary, even just. When a person believes that killing protects them, they stop seeing themselves as guilty. They see themselves as survivors. And that logical transformation is much more dangerous than any supernatural belief. Constanzo died without facing a judge. Some of his followers were sentenced to long prison terms. Others were never found. Some cooperated, others remained silent. The group disintegrated, but it did not disappear completely. Their ideas survived in fragments, in stories, in less organized imitations. Not everyone paid for what they did, and that is part of the disturbing legacy of the case. The feeling that not every responsible person faces consequences. The case of Mark shows that evil does not always scream. Sometimes it whispers promises of protection and power. It was not a demonic sect that destroyed lives, but people who decided to believe that violence had meaning when faith is used to justify harm. The danger is not in the belief, but in those who obey it without questioning. If this story made you uncomfortable, it fulfilled its purpose, because the real fear is not what happened, but thinking how many people today still believe in the power of justifying anything, and ask yourself, at what moment someone crosses that line?
Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave a comment. I will be reading your comments.